What's up, everybody? And today I want to be showing you my Amaterasu build. This build has seemed to
We
be
make
giving
war so
me
that
a
we may live in
lot. Like
peace.
it rewards the playstyle I play, and yeah.
Minions
So
have spawned.
let's um let's get into why I like Amaterasu first, and yeah. Well, first of all, she's a damaging warrior. She's a warrior that can tank, and she can do a good amount of damage. And if you use her right, she does damage, and she makes people leave. I have a game I might post on my YouTube of me making like a Mastery 8 Odin, a Mastery 4 Fafnir, and a Mastery like 9 Raw leave the game. And I that just happened, and I just felt so satisfying because I knew it was me because I just kept finessing them as Amaterasu, and I kept making them rage, and I made them leave, and it just it's funny to see that like people reacting that way. Okay, I don't want consumables, bro. I want. So let's get into our relics first. Our relics, I usually go with Aegis and then maybe Purification Beads. And if I'm really feeling it that game, Meditation Cloak so I can stay diving into the game. Really, it's how you play, and I think it is how you should how you should you do the way you want to do. So I'm just gonna go with Purification Beads. I'm not gonna use anything, but yeah. So let's uh let's get into the build. So first of all, I keep my ability level up the same. Like with Susano, I usually my last ability I usually focus on the tornado and his ultimate. Like that's the last ability I focus on. But yeah. So let's actually get into our divine presence. So first of all, you get healing per tick throughout each level when it's maxed. You get 55 healing per tick. With your benevolent aura, you gain 25% movement speed, and with your valor aura, you gain 35 bonus power. So obviously, this is kind of what makes her a damaging warrior. She can move, and she can do damage, and she can heal. Now the illuminating strike is something different. So we have no like, the illuminating strike is a really good passive. This is what, like I said, this is what makes her a damaging or a damaging warrior is this passive right here. So we're gonna go on speed boost, 66, 33, 66, 73, 37, 73. As you can see, it buffs your damage up quite a good amount, and while you level up, you also gain attack speed. So attack speed isn't going to be an issue. But overall, you're doing some pretty good damage. Now, let's get into what I usually build first into the game. When I usually build first, this is not the build, please. I only use 3 of these items, which is our Bulwark of Hope, our Breastplate of Valor, and our Warrior Tabi. But first, I
Shiny
usually
and
build for
new.
Warrior Tabi. Warrior Tabi just, it makes everything better. 150, 100. 110, 55, 110. When I go into damage aura, I do 129, 65, 129, 142, 71, 142 when that aura is procced. So she is a 1v1ing character
Feel my strength.
everywhere. Whenever you proc that aura buff, you're going to gain healing for about 5 seconds, which means you have a lot of sustain on you, especially with her too, which that is what we're going into now. She charges her mirror for 5 seconds. While that mirror is charging, she takes decreased damage, specifically 15% less at max. Uh, at start, you do 3%, 6%, 9%, 12%. Overall, these are some really good buffs. And yeah, for full charge damage is 420. Blaze it at a max, and her mirror damage is like 210 plus 24, I believe, every I think. I don't know. I think that's your in all just your physical damage going into the thing. But yeah. So you're gonna see that the mirror damage does a lot, and this is kind of what you want. So you're gonna go into damage aura, proc 3 strikes. While you're doing that, proc 3 strikes. Keep proccing the strikes,
Challenge me.
doing a 430 damage. While you're on damage aura and while they're weak, they're gonna take damage from all sources when they have that passive proc on them. When they have the passive proc, everything that takes damage will, or everything that does damage will deal extra damage. So like you can take a Fafnir for, or not Fafnir, but like you can take anything for example, except for towers and phoenixes and stuff like that. Jungle monsters get this. Pretty much everything gets this. After I get my warrior tabi though, I usually move on to my
Let's
breastplate of
give it a
valor.
try.
This makes me very tanky in the early game, and it's if you're tanky in the early game, you're gonna have a good advantage because, well, that means towers are gonna be destroyed easier of your tanking power, and you're gonna gain, extra health. Or not extra health, but you're gonna gain extra uh, protection. You're gonna gain some 10 extra mana per 5 seconds. Next, to make her a little bit more tankier, I usually go Bulwark of Hope. This gives me crowd control reduction, 200 health, and magical
Artifacts
protection.
from a foreign land.
So I have overall 65 magical protection, and then uh, or 60 magical protection, 65 physical protection. Now, I mean, I would say you could go into Shogun's Kasari. Gives you overall cooldown reduction, crowd control reduction, and 20 mana per 5 seconds, and you get extra attack speed. This is kind of situational in my opinion. I don't use it as much. It's definitely not my early game damage build. It's not my early game anything build, right? But after I get my Bulwark of Hope, this gives me extra survivability because of its passive too. I'll show you its passive. When you take damage and you are below 30% health, you gain a shield health equal to 150 plus 10 per player level for 20 seconds. This is insane. This allows you to dive in with your ult and do a lot more instead of backing out of there. Okay. Now, next I would go Void Shield. This gives me power and
In
protection.
you, sacred treasure.
This gives me a lot of, just a lot of damage. Let me show you. Here's my damage aura. 184, 92, 184. 202, 101, 202. This gives me the damage I need and the protection I need to really fuck shit up. My bad for cussing, but that's what else am I supposed to do? This is amazing. This build is honestly, it's kind of revolutionary in Joust. That's the game that I play the most. Next, if you go to the popular, but not really. If you go to power, Frostbound Hammer.
Shiny
Frostbound Hammer
and
gives you
new.
a flat out 25 physical power buff with 300 health. This is amazing for any warriors that want to do damage out there because, well, you're getting raw power and you're getting health, and enemies get slowed for their movement speed whenever you basic attack them. 209, 105, 209. 230, 105, 230. These are basic attacks, by the way. Next, I would go into something like Quinn Size. Uh, or you can go into Shogun's Kasari. This is where I make my decision, right? Because this gives me extra attack speed and physical power. But Shogun's Kusari, on the other hand, will also give me magical protection, cooldown reduction, and a little bit of extra attack speed. This is completely up to you, but when I'm really feeling it, I honestly go for Quinn Size, or maybe even the Executioner. Quinn Size, on basic attack, deal physical damage equal to 4% of the target's maximum health. This is good for late game. This is meant for late game and meant to be in late game. But if you're not doing the best, you might as well get Shogun's Kusari.
In you, sacred treasure.
This might be a different build for anyone, but really, this is just more of just a build. 249, 125, 249, 274, 137, 274. This is with my damage buff. You're doing a lot of damage for a warrior, and at the same time, you're being
Stand
very
together.
mobile. You can heal. You have amazing sustain, and you have a lot of damage. So,
Fear
with her
must taste.
combos, there's many different things that I would honestly recommend. First of all, you're gonna pop your 2, your dash, and start fighting.
The sun has set on you.
And that will instantly kill him, right? So obviously you gain extra protection. You gain extra protection with your 2, and you can dash in there. And the more damage you do, the more it's going to charge, right? And the more damage.
The sun has set on you.
So, like I said, yeah, all that amazingness. Another thing that I honestly kind of recommend, is X, and then your ult. Right? So this allows you to push in, allows you to stun enemies for your entire team to take. Now, meanwhile, they're probably not full on health, but if they are full on health, whatever. So yeah, you can pop your speed. Pop your speed. You can go like around and stuff. Overall, she's really good for building, and she does a lot of good damage. At the same time, keep staying alive along. Now, the only problem with this build, I would say, is the mana. The mana isn't the best on this build, but I never really find that an issue. Right, so obviously you're doing a good amount of damage. You're keeping sustain up really well, but your mana is low, and the mana is quite the issue. But if you're having trouble with mana, and you're having trouble with keeping your mana, you might as well sell your Quincy's, and you can get something like where can I find it at? Something like a Hydra's Lament, or something better. This gives you extra mana and physical power.
Shiny and
Transcendence
new.
is one of the best things in the game, in my opinion. And you never really see Transcendent builds on Amaterasu, but Transcendence is there to help you with your mana problem. But a lot of your mana also gets transferred into damage. So you go raw out damage. Alright, but you're also losing a lot of damage unless you get all those stacks up. So yeah, and if you are having trouble more of staying alive, go ahead and pick Shogun's Casario, because allied gods and some units have their attack speed increased by 25%. That's really good, and at the same time, you can also have crowd control reduction, cooldown reduction, mana per second, and a little bit of extra magical protection. The mana per second cancels out that mana troubles you will have, and we're going to go and fight the fire giant now. Here, the fire giants pretty much they do a substantial amount of damage to me. Seems to be immune from all my attacks. I might die. Kind of just get out of there. Alright. One thing you can also do is get some consumables. One of my favorite consumables are Potion of Physical Might and Elixir of Power. Elixir of Power is, well, you can stack both of these up and you can do an immense amount of damage. So once again, we'll go attack this fire giant. So you never, and as you can see, my overshield has been procced, and I still gain healing over time, 21, maybe 73, overall, because, well, playing fucking Amaterasu and her passives are overpowered as hell. So, for the last time, we're gonna go and test out our mana buffs, or not our mana buffs, but our buffs to begin with. 468, 234, 468, 515, 258, 515. Those are with all these stacks on. So yeah. You're doing massive chunks of damage. You're doing everything. This is the full maxed out end game build. So this isn't something you would see every game. Maybe something like Conquest is definitely viable. Conquest is very viable. Uh, you're doing a butt ton of damage, and you are tanking a lot of damage. And as you see, I just soloed the entire fire giant, but at the same time, I also used a bunch of potions and shit. So
To the mirror.
let's see. There, we have a little bit of cooldown reduction. Your ult isn't so needed. Your ult, if anything, is to engage in a team fight. That's what your ult's for. But the more mana we get, the more damage we're gonna output, and you're gonna see I do a lot of extra damage because of that mana, which gives me. Now here's the ultimate at late game potential. We're about 20 off, so yeah. You can stack your buffs up again. Wait, you used to be able to stack them up to like 600 seconds.
Gaze into the mirror.
Barely losing any damage to minions. Well, yeah, overall, she's very late game viable, end game viable. Amaterasu has really good early game, and middle game she kind of falls off, but she has really good early game tankiness, really good late game damage, and she's something to definitely screw with. And yeah, definitely try her out. I think she's by far my favorite. And sorry this build video took forever, but we're going to show you the max damage with Transcendent, and then the survivability will show So this was the damage buff on Fire Giant, 490, 245, 490, 539, 270, 539. So that is your true end-game damage potential. If you want, you can build towards more pen, if you feel like it. Something like offensive penetration. You can go with like the Icable. Anything like, or you can go with Titan's Bane. Titan's Bane is by far the best penetration use. So like, for example, when we go into our builds, you go right here. You can sell this. You can go in by Titan's Bane. This gives me 33% physical penetration with a good amount of attack. Obviously not as good of attack as the Trans. The Trans gives you a lot of mana and attack. Titan's Bane obviously gives you 10. But in late game, you don't want the 10, you want the damage. So you can go with the build I did, you can go. Yeah. So that's my Amaterasu build, and yeah. Also, her dash does like 400 damage, which is so fucking overpowered. It's not even fair to the actual game. So she's doing 394, 449, 504. While this should be procced in the middle of it, that half charge only did 490 damage. Dash does 453. This is all while the damage aura is procced. So yeah. Overall, super fucking overpowered. Definitely give her a try. Anyways, see you guys in the next video. Peace.